Hey guys, and welcome to Money Talks News, the podcast. It's a podcast that makes you just a little richer every single day. And with me is my producer and my friend, Aaron Freeman. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, it's good to see you, man. It's been a bit. We've
It has
taken
been
a little
a bit.
hiatus.
It has been a bit. We have to hang out. We have to have a beer.
I know, we do.
But not now because it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so anyway, what we're going to do today, Aaron, I think is you've gotten some listener questions, some viewer questions, whatever you want to call them, questions from people who watch this podcast. And we're going to try to answer some of those today, mostly about investing, I assume. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, I think overall it seems like there's a little bit of confusion as to what people should do with their retirement or just trading in general. Or people are worried about their money being in there, and like what's Trump doing to the market? What's these tariffs doing in general?
This is confusing.
Because there's a lot of things like they're saying, okay, there seems to be a lot of news about, a recession is definitely coming at the end of the year. There's going to be empty shelves and even Trump said, I think I pulled some quotes here. What did he say the other day? Oh, yeah. Remember this one? This is Biden. And you could even say that the next quarter is sort of Biden because it just happens on a daily basis, something like that. So basically, he's saying that there's going to be a hurt coming down the pike, Well, so people are going, okay, do I leave my money in the market? I mean, what's going on here? What do I do?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is confusing because all roads point to a recession. I mean, the market should be going down, and it's not. It's going up. As a matter of fact,
which is confusing.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just wrote something. What is it? Oh, this is the longest winning streak for the S&P 500 in 20 years. The market is up today. This is Friday, May 2nd. The market just opened, but if it stays in the green, it will be ninth straight day.
Right.
And that's the longest winning streak in 20 years. And we're in this bizarre situation with these moronic, and I mean moronic tariffs. And by the way, I'm going to criticize all kinds of things about the tariffs. Let me say this on the outset, Aaron. This is neither Republican nor Democrat. This is a policy by a guy at this time. So when I criticize tariffs, I'm not criticizing Republicans, and I am criticizing Trump and his cabinet. I just want to make that clear first. I'm agnostic in terms of politics in this arena. Anyway, I apologize for that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm reading through the questions, and I myself was saying the same thing. So I figured we got to jump on this podcast and talk about it. I mean, when the market went really low, I think it corrected 10% or something near that. I went in and I bought some too because I was like,
"Did you good?"
Yeah, because
that was smart.
Well, yeah, but I don't understand why the market's not dropping anymore. I mean, we literally still have these tariffs. We still have these 10% tariffs that are across the board, and he's hammering the crap out of China,
hammering them,
and they're not going to let down. I mean.
No.
You were talking about a guy that literally made everybody stay home during COVID. I mean, he doesn't care if he crashes the economy.
No.
So then I'm thinking, okay, well, if stores are going to be empty and you got a lot of people out there not buying stuff at the 145% tariff, so they're not bringing it in, and you got a lot of stockpiles sitting out there at the ports. How is everybody still buying into the market?
Yeah,
why is there such
a good question. I mean, it really is, because what I see, this whole thing to me is just ridiculous. As you point out, hey, consumer confidence hasn't been this low since the pandemic. And every night you turn on NBC nightly news, forget financial news, just regular news, and you see a story about somebody's about to lose their small business because they can't get stuff from China. I mean, This is obviously a horrible thing. So the question you're asking though is why is the stock market going up? Well, remember the stock market is an indication of the future. So obviously the people who are investing in stocks are people like you who buy the dip reflexively, but more to the point, it's probably because people are seeing through it. In other words, they're saying Trump is obviously going to be forced to come up with some compromise on tariffs, and he is. Because otherwise he will tank the economy. So people are betting that that's going to happen. And remember, on the other side of this tariff mess is less regulation and lower taxes, which he's also promised. Right. So, and that's obviously good for stocks. but to be honest with you, Aaron, these are the textbook answers to the question you ask. But I really don't understand it. This is literally I've been investing in the stock market for 45 years. And this is literally the most boneheaded, stupid move that I've ever seen. I mean, he's literally not just shot himself in the foot, he's shot every American in the foot with a shotgun. I mean, this is just crazy to have, one of our biggest trading partners to put 150% tariff on him, 145, whatever the hell it is. So basically, we've ceased trade with China. Just like we didn't go and try to negotiate a better deal. We just went out there and said, this is hubris. Okay, this is a guy who thinks he's so important, and that our economy is so important to the world, which it is. But he can go out there and stick his finger in their eye and expect them to just kowtow. Like, for example, saying to Canada, "You're going to be our 51st state." J.D. Vance literally called the Chinese people peasants.
Yeah.
That was all over the news in China. What do you think people are going to do when you start doing? How would you feel if Canada said they were going to annex us? You dig your heels in. So not only do they have these ruinous tariffs, then they dare people to do something about it. I mean, to me, I've just never seen anything stupider. I just haven't.
Yeah.
Anyway, you knew I was going to go off on a tirade.
I know. Well, within your rights. I mean. And there's part of me that feels the same way. I just don't get it. I don't get the tactic. But regardless of this tactic, there's questions out there of like, okay, so this world is different. When I was growing up, 401k was kind of relatively new to my dad. And then when I was growing up, I grew up in this environment where, all those guys are robbers. You don't mess with the market. Every those guys are robbers. Well, now fast forward, social media has literally taught everybody how to invest.
Yeah.
And some of the questions are now is like, there's this division, there's this thing called, and I think it's been called this forever, but it's called retail traders, which is me. And then there's the smart money, which is everybody else that really understands this stuff. So a lot of people are asking, okay, so is this smart money really understanding the market and really kind of laying the field and saying, well, the market's already where it should be, so everything's okay? And then there's other people asking the question, is this retail traders, because there's so many of them now, because they've been taught by YouTube and social media how to trade, they don't understand it, and they're pushing this thing up, and eventually smart money is going to steal all their money, because inevitably there's going to be a recession with this type of tariff system, and Christmas is going to tank everything. I don't think that's
unreasonable. I would hesitate to use the word steal their money.
Well, not steal, but I mean, what's
they're
going to happen
taking the other side of the trade. And that is true. I mean, institutions have been net sellers as retail investors have been net buyers during this volatile time we've had in the last month or two. But that doesn't mean institutions going to be right either. But but I totally agree with you, Aaron. I think that is one reason why the market is going up, even as every single indicator would point going the other direction. It's a mystery to me. And this is one reason why I always stay invested. I have just in this week, and by the way, I'm not really heavily invested. As you may have heard me say, in fact, I'm sure you've heard me say since the beginning of the year, I'm not really that into the stock market right now for a couple of reasons. One is because it's trading at 21 times earnings.
Yes.
So that is the S&P is expected to earn, I think, $265 or something like that this year, and it's trading at 5,700, and that you divide one into the other, and you come up with a 21.5 PE ratio. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, the market is overvalued, and as you've also heard me say before, Aaron, regression to the mean. I mean, it was up 24% in 2023. The market was up 23% in 2024. The historical average for the market is to go up 10%. Therefore, in order for it to regress to the mean, it can't go up 20% again. I mean, this is just it's just simple math to me.
Right.
And then pile on top of it all this other crap.
Which would be another like warning indicator of like, ooh, this is treacherous thing to do, is to like, okay, we got tariffs, we've got everybody yelling recession, which in itself, if everybody yells it, isn't that sometimes a thing that makes it actually happen? Because everybody's screaming it.
Sure. I mean, like you heard me say a little while ago, you've got consumer confidence as well.
There's an emotional investment there too.
Yeah.
Is this also a part of, because we've talked about this before in our podcast, because Trump is one day he's this, one day he's this. He's talking about we're going to put these tariffs on. Nope, 3 days later we're going to pull back on it, and we're going to allow cars to go through. We're going to allow other things to go through. Is this also what's pumping the market, where people are going? I mean, we kind of like talked about this a little bit just a second ago, but they are in the belief that he is going to pull back, or China is going to cave, and the market is going up because of that as well.
I think that that's absolutely true. The Trump put is what that's called. I don't know for our less sophisticated listeners, but a put is something that if the market goes down, it makes money. Okay, so a Trump put, and also there's been called a Powell put for the Federal Reserve Chairman. So in other words, if things get bad enough, the Fed chair is going to lower rates. If things get bad enough, Trump's going to turn around and reverse these policies on tariffs. And I think there's very good reason to think that. Unfortunately, and I think Trump will do that. I mean, I will almost bet you that we're not going to have 150% tariff on China pretty soon, because in the next few weeks, in the next few days almost, stuff is going to start happening. Things are going to start getting more expensive. Things are not going to be available.
Yeah.
Cargo coming into the Port of Los Angeles is down 35%. Truck drivers are going to start losing their jobs. Dock workers are going to start losing their jobs. Retail workers are going to start losing their jobs. And he's going to be forced back to the table. His opponent, Xi, doesn't have that problem because he's a totalitarian government. He can just tell people to shut up. That doesn't happen here. People won't shut up. So Trump's going to have to turn around and do something about these tariffs. Maybe I'm sure he's going to maintain some tariffs, which is not good, but he can't keep them this high.
Right. Well, China still has distributions around the world, and it's not like we have all our allies going, yeah, we're with you, America. We're going to do the same thing you're doing. They're not doing that.
No, because we stuck our fingers in their eye. I mean, I don't understand why we would treat our friends like enemies, and that's exactly what he's done. And so right now, what's happening is Europe, who I think it was Vance, someone on his cabinet called them a bunch of pathetic losers in a text which got out and is now in. So now what they're doing now is starting to form trade relationships with China. Because China loves this. The United States is isolated, not by other countries, by its own actions. And so now the whole world is being redesigned, but not in the way that Donald Trump wants it to be. Right. What's going to happen is, and also when he pulls back the tariffs, which he's going to have to do, in my opinion, what do you think that says about the United States? You can't trust us.
Right.
You have one president come in who wants to restore, the relationship with NATO, and then you have this other guy who, blah blah blah. He's saying things, he's taking them back. You're supposed to build billion-dollar factories here when you don't know what the tariff's going to be day after tomorrow. I mean, this is just it's chaotic.
Right. And now let me ask you this too. Okay, so a little while back, Trump gave out a tweet saying, we're gonna make a lot of money here, or something like that. And the stock market went up, and Green went out and bought some stock and everything. And now we're all wondering if the SEC's got to get in here and start investigating stuff.
Well, I can guarantee you they won't. But anyway,
they won't. But so if Trump says something and then this stuff happens, if Trump says this, which is here's a quote from him. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, and maybe $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally, right? So he's literally indicating that I want to keep this thing and Christmas is going to suck.
Yeah,
right.
That's what he's saying.
Then Bassett gets on Fox News in I think Wednesday morning, I think it was, and he goes, the big deal that could be done here is President Trump has reoriented the U.S. toward a manufacturing economy, taking us back to the strength that that we sapped over the several years and decades. Anyway, but he's saying China needs to be balanced more towards consumption. So he's basically saying they want China to take more of our products and have this more balanced economy.
Right.
But one, what is it that China needs to buy from us? Because what are we making that they need?
Well, a lot of agricultural products for one, and energy products too, probably. Right. But
those two statements between him and Bassett, I mean, is that indicator of saying this is where it's going? Why is the stock market going up? Because they're literally going to tank this thing. They're literally telling us they're going to tank it.
I agree with you. And this is the thing too. there are many situations in life, Aaron, that I could say, well, I'm pretty sure about this, but I must be wrong because everybody else thinks it's something different. I mean, the market's going up. I've been doing this for decades, but maybe I've been wrong many times too. Maybe I'm wrong about this, or maybe everybody else is wrong. In other words, these people who are betting that these tariffs are going to go away, they could be wrong, and we could go into a recession, and a lot of money could be lost. But this is why I'm frozen. I listen. I watch Fast Money all the time on CNBC, and there's a technical analyst on there, and he calls. They'll say, like, "What do you think of this chart?" And he'll say, "It's a pair of twos," and that means a pair of twos is the worst hand you can have unless you have 5 random cards, and that's what he says about the market now, and that's how I feel about it too. I'm almost wanting to sell. Although I'm already low in my allocation to stocks because I'm older, but I'm not sure that because what's happening right in front of me doesn't make sense. That the market's going up every day, 9 days in a row. That makes no sense to me whatsoever, and it makes me want to sell. But at the same time, I'm not going to buy. I'll guarantee you that. You were smart if you bought on when the market dipped 10%. But I'm not. I'm just not going to do that.
I did do a lot. I did my the percentages that I felt comfortable with. But again, there's another question. I did that on the premise of the old Warren Buffett. It's like you don't bet against America. It's proud, it's strong. Even if it goes down below the 10%, 15 years, it's still going to be up. But then again,
absolutely.
I've spent years learning this whole thing, and a lot learning through you. And that was the first time I decided to get really interested in the market through, working with personal finance. But now I'm in this government that I don't understand. Like this is a government that I've never seen before.
Nobody's seen this government before.
I mean, so this is not this is not the America I recognize.
No,
Republican or Democrat throughout the ages. So I'm like, I don't understand. Is this guy going to trash America and just completely ruin everything, or is big money behind all this? And with mineral right deals going with Ukraine and all kinds of stuff, is this going to be a completely different glory days that I don't understand?
You're 100% agree with you, dude. I have absolutely no idea either. This could go either way. To me, it looks like the market should be crashing. It isn't.
Yeah.
And maybe I've also read, as I'm sure you have too, some people are saying, hey, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we've got this China. We're not selling to China or buying from China. We'll figure it out. It's not going to be that big. It's not going to hurt the American economy that much. I think it will. I think it's already hurting the American economy, not just physically, but I think emotionally. I think people are scared. But we'll see what happens. And it's a really interesting time. But as far as I'm concerned, pair of twos, not buying, not selling. And actually, if I was going to do one or the other, I'd be a seller. I would.
Oh, yeah.
I've owned Apple. And in fact, I read an article last night. Apple just announced their earnings yesterday. The stock's down a little bit today, but it's still around $200 a share. For the first time, and I've literally made $1 million on Apple stock. I bought it in 2001, and I still own 1,000 shares of it. And I read an article last night by an analyst that I respect, who said that he would not be surprised to see Apple cut in half.
Really?
Because I mean, China is a huge market, and they were also saying, like, you think Apple's going to bring back manufacturing of iPhones to the United States? He said, no. It would take 10 years. B, it would cost 3 times as much to build one. And he said, and where? Do you know how many? This was really interesting. You know how many people create who assemble Apple products or Apple iPhones in China? 200,000. 200,000 people in one place are putting together components or assembling Apple iPhones.
And that is a big workforce to try to just create it in another country and try to train all these people and not to expect any interruption or disruption in that pipeline.
We've got 17 million factory workers in the United States. China has 220 million.
Well, I'm sure Apple would probably put more factories in India or anywhere else before they put them here in America. Whatever they do.
Yeah, but what if you're Apple and you go, okay, well, I'll just put them in India. They just did this. People moved their manufacturing to Vietnam, and now Vietnam's got a 45% tariff on it. How about this? with the U.S. Mexico Canada deal that Trump himself negotiated in what was it 2018? That caused people to build factories in Mexico, car manufacturers.
I actually just bought a laptop yesterday from Apple because, well, my computer's like 6 years old, but I got worried that, like, well, what if these things start costing a whole lot more than I want to pay?
They're going to.
Yeah, so I went out and bought one yesterday.
I think that was a good idea. I think that was smart.
Yeah, because I don't know what hell's going to happen. And a lot of people are stocking up on stuff. And that's going to cause another problem. That's another thing we didn't talk about. People right now are stocking up on a whole bunch of stuff. And when you do that, you're emptying the shelves before the shelves actually become empty, which means there's not going to be anything. There's going to be like,
it's going to be like a pandemic.
Exactly, it's going to be like a pandemic, and that's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, it is going to be nuts. And while we're talking, this guy in the White House could be scribbling something on a piece of paper and changing everything. You know, this is what last time you and I got together for a podcast, I was ranting about this. I don't care if it's Warren Buffett. I'm not going to be in a situation where one man can ruin my life savings on a whim. Right. You know, to send the stock market down trillions of dollars in a day and then bring it back trillions of dollars the next day. That's just dangerous. And to me, that's why I don't invest a lot in crypto, because I think it's a manipulated market. I think people who have, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in crypto can move the market. Well, here's this guy sitting in the White House who's moving the market and in crazy ways.
Right.
Well, this doesn't make me comfortable. It makes me want to sell everything and put everything in T-bills, to be honest with you.
I know. I feel the same way. Yeah. Let's wrap this up. So what about warning signs here? So Florida here, where you and I live, actually housing has come down. And we said in the past, housing is a huge part of the GDP and everything. And in fact, the GDP went down negative 0.3 when it was supposed to be up 0.6.
Yep.
So that's not a good indicator. And now we've got housing starting to grow. Phoenix is crumbling. Florida is starting to show signs of weakness. So what are some warning signs that we should look at to say, okay, this is not going in the right direction?
Well, I mean, keeping an eye on employment is one really important thing. And also, obviously, keeping an eye on interest rates is really important too. As a matter of fact, this morning, interest rates went up again on the 10-year. So that means mortgage rates are going to be higher. So keeping an eye on the bond market is super, super important. And then looking at economic indicators and listening to what this group of the three stooges, how many stooges there are in the White House talking about tariffs, I mean, it's all you, and also look at earnings, stock earnings, because if stocks are trading at 21 times earnings, and that's assuming that there's going to be 10% earnings growth this year, there better be. Right. All the stuff we've talked about in this podcast, all the negative things on the horizon, make it a little hard to believe that earnings are going to be up 10%.
Right.
And if
when's
they're
that
not,
tip, though? Because what happens is these companies start firing people in order to make their earnings look good. Because you can get rid of 3,000 employees and bring your profit margins up, and companies have been doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a tipping scale there.
Yes. Well, I mean, if you're losing revenue, then you're going to have to do something. But I'll tell you one thing they won't be doing, though, Aaron, if they lay people off, they won't be dancing around on a stage with a chainsaw in their hand, insulting them, which is what Elon Musk has done. It's like these guys are just they just don't care. It's like I said, hubris. They think that they know every goddamn thing, and they don't care what other people think of them, and now. Musk is finding out what happens when people don't like you.
Yeah,
they don't buy your products.
Yeah, they don't buy your products, and they start scratching your car and yards.
Anyway, I digress. You can tell I'm just pissed about this whole thing. This was so unnecessary. Hey, using tariffs to get better trade deals, totally fine with that. I think the more the freer trade is, the better. But when you go and do with this 150%. And calling people peasants. I mean, what kind of hubris is that? What do you think is going to happen? I don't know. Again, I'm sorry. I'm raging.
Yeah, I could tell.
So I know we were supposed to answer more questions. Well, you want to answer more questions on the next podcast?
I mean, I think we answered a lot of them.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was the vast majority of the questions. I kind of went through them without actually asking them directly, but and so the big warning signs are: check out the bond market. keep your eye on
yeah.
check interest rates, keep your eye on people's profits, keep your eye on unemployment.
Yeah, yeah, and consumer confidence too. These are all good things to look at.
Okay, all right, cool. Thanks, man. Let's
all right,
close
my
it up.
friend. I will talk to you soon. And you folks out there, do me a favor. Do both of us a favor. Follow us. Give us compliments. Oh, by the way, if you have questions, put them underneath the video on YouTube, and we'll try to answer them sometime. But anyway, follow us, tell your friends, make us famous is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and give us a thumbs up because that really helps the
there you go.
It really helps the metrics on YouTube.
A thumbs up, guys, and we're going to see you right here next time.